You know, I didn't want to talk about this sort of thing because I didn't really see a need for it because I wasn't very passionate about this stuff. I am a fan of it, but I just didn't really have enough of a rage to go on a rant about this. But, you know, when people ask this sort of question, I think it's only fair that I calmly give an explanation to that answer. Okay? So if you guys look on the picture I sent forward, I have it like I have a screenshot of it. I'll have a link of the description below. But this sort of topic covers the Cowboy Bebop live adaptation on Netflix. If you guys don't know what's happened to the show, I want to say a few days ago it was announced that after 3 weeks of being on the streaming service, Netflix has essentially canceled the entire project. And there have been some back and forth from fans and non-fans. The non-fans saying, "Look what you guys did." Okay, they had a season 2 all prepared, and it was gonna be the bomb. And then the true fans are like, "If season 2 was going to be the best, then what the hell was season 1?" Okay, so everyone pretty much knows about why this Cowboy Bebop adaptation did not do so well. While it ended up being just canceled after one season. All right. All right. And so the people are asking the question, what does this mean for live adaptations? Okay. So the article that you see before you is from Inverse. Like I said, I'll have the link of it below. I was sent by this from a channel called Think Before You Sleep. If you guys want to have a more detailed psychological take on certain issues, I highly recommend you go check him out. He's very literate on certain topics and basically the deeper meanings and conflicts of certain topics that most people don't want to cover. But this is from Inverse, and it says, "It wasn't for a lack of trying. On Thursday, Netflix announced the cancellation of its expensive and ambitious series Cowboy Bebop, a live-action adaptation of the influential Japanese anime. As The Hollywood Reporter observed, the axe fell just 3 weeks after the show premiered. The relentless promotion by Netflix leading up to its premiere, only for its swift cancellation a week later, raises an exhausting question. What was this all for? Oh, there's a simple answer to that. Money. Simple as that. It was for money. All right? They saw how this is basically how liberal producers and directors and screenwriters see about certain products that have a huge fan base. They see a business opportunity. Okay? They take a hold of that and they say, "Oh, if you guys like that, then you'll definitely love this." Problem is, though, no one, without the amount of money they were given to do those types of projects, you would think they would have it in their budget to have their writers and their actors look at the source material. And that's where this whole thing's from. Okay? These things fail because the source material is ignored by the West when it comes to Japanese anime or manga. All right? It continues to say, "Netflix is in a perpetual and desperate search for original production to beef up its content catalog. Unlike streamers that rely on existing library like Paramount Plus or Warner Media, Netflix is limber enough to license, adapt, and acquire. And it's because it's more financially sound to adapt IP with an existing audience than trying something new, at least if you ignore successful gambles like Stranger Things and Squid Game." Okay. Yes, I will say Stranger Things does have a bit of an audience base because it's so popular. But here's something that you don't seem to understand about Squid Game. Okay? Squid Game is a Korean-made series. Okay? I watched the entire first season of Squid Game in its original audio with English subtitles. Okay? I tried to watch the first few minutes of the first episode in English, and I could not stand it. All right? I seriously cannot stand it. I don't know what it is, but when I first got into anime or foreign movies, I always look for like the English version of stuff because I always thought it was right. But after a while, the dubs weren't wildly available, so I just ended up just listening to the original audio, and I sort of fell in love with it. Okay, Netflix found its way to Cowboy Bebop, an anime beloved in part because of how contained it was as a 26 episode serial rather than an absurd 90 chapter saga. Sorry, 900 chapter saga. Oh, yeah. It's amazing. It's because the original creators knew what their content was. They knew how to, like, chop it down enough to where people can still enjoy it. But Netflix opened a lot of wounds in pulp culture fandom. Anime fans are fatigued at limp adaptations of Japanese anime by Hollywood producers because, for decades, American creatives have demonstrated a woeful misunderstanding of the cultural themes that make these series stories special. Ungainly attempts at an American remake of the 1988 sci-fi classic Akira have tried to set the story in New York City, despite Akira fundamentally being about Japanese 20th century existing crisis, as evidenced by its depictions of civil unrest, rampant Bosakugo gangs, and predominant nuclear imagery. Here's the thing. Despite how very business influential America is, so is Japan. The problem is, I want to say more than half of the American population has no idea on what the Japanese culture is. They refuse to understand it. So instead, they look at it and then Americanize it and think that's appropriate. And these are people who talk about, cultural appropriation. And they take Japanese culture and then Americanize it because they think it's strange or misogynist or racist. All right? And these are the same people who want to talk about, cultural appropriation. Although most Hollywood adaptations of anime often exhibit laborious visual devotion to these stories, as in the Scarlett Johansson like Ghost in the Shell from 2017, which contains several shot-for-shot mimicries of the 1995 anime film, these still fail to adapt to a new medium. Cowboy Bebop is both the best and most recent example. In spite of the show's obvious efforts to be the anime, the actual filmmaking failed to be as lively, energetic, and rhythmic as it is in animation. It was like watching a faded photocopy. Yes, because, like I said before, America, more than half of the American population, has no idea about the Japanese culture and the creative products it comes out of. All right? It astounds me that, thinking about it, excluding the live action adaptation and the Americanization of Netflix's Death Note, which I do not recommend. It is fucking terrible. I have seen live action adaptations of certain animes, not just on Netflix, but other platforms too. Netflix has the live action adaptation of Bleach, and it's good. There's a live action adaptation of Attack on Titan, and it's good. There's a live action adaptation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4, and it's good. And I can't remember, there was another live action adaptation of, it was like, oh god, it was a show, it's a series where there's a bunch of astronauts who go to Mars to explore it, and then they're being attacked by mutated roaches, and then all the astronauts, I can't remember that, it's something Landers, or I can't. But there's a live action adaptation of that, and it was good. You know what all those live action anime adaptations have in common? They're all produced by Japanese owned and Japanese localized production studios. They have no American input whatsoever. So the question is, so the answer is, it is possible to make a live action adaptation of a beloved anime or manga. The problem is America can't do it because they don't have enough people in their industry to actually sit down, take months and months and months of looking over the source material and falling in love with it. The problem is they'd rather take people who are so arrogant and closed-minded that they just make shit up as they go. And all they have to do is look on Twitter, look on Facebook, find a weeaboo community and ask them, hey, guys, do you want to be consultants on our project to make a live adaptation of this anime or manga? And I guarantee you, they will sit there and talk to you on how it should look and feel and sound. All right? Sorry, let's continue to the article. Casting further divide fandom. In the lead role of bounty hunter Spike Spiegel was John Cho, the Korean actor whose success in Hollywood has come to represent something bigger than himself. This was also Mustafa Shakir, whose Bushmaster in Luke Cage was a revelation as pilot Jet Black, and Daniela Pineda, an exciting new talent whose Faye Valentine called for spunk and sultriness. Though recognized by the mainstream media for his works in the raunchy Harold and Kumar films and the reboot of Star Trek trilogy, Cho has been unable to crack Hollywood's bamboo ceiling. He hasn't become a proper Hollywood star despite all his qualifications as a leading male actor, but Cho's involvement in the Netflix series felt subversive. Because most anime adaptations cast white actors as its leads, Cho's role as Spike, whose race is unspecified in the anime, felt declarative of something resembling a point, and for Cho, the series was shaping up to be the vehicle to finally take Cho to the stars. That's another thing, too. Okay? Spike's character is not Asian. He's not even Japanese, let alone Korean. If anything, he seems more Caucasian. All right? And here, that's another thing that I think a lot of, American production studios have a thing about Japanese products. Okay? They think all the characters, anything like Cowboy Bebop, since it's an anime or manga, all the characters have to be Asian. It's ridiculous. And they don't even bother to go to the original creator and ask them what the races of the characters were. Because if you did, he'd probably tell you what Spike's race was, and he would also tell you that Jet is not even close to resembling being black. I think he said he was more Filipino. All right? But could it actually? There is a semi-recent phenomenon in culture commentary known as representation sweats. Now that acknowledging identity has become part of the still systematic white movies and TV shows, audiences of color sweat over projects featuring ethnic minorities, especially whether these projects are actually worth attention. Because of the supply and demand machinations that run Hollywood, there's always a fear that projects like Cowboy Bebop will fail and end the potential of other diverse casts. If it looks like there's no demand, Hollywood will scuttle the supply. Okay? And that's where Hollywood seems to continue failing. They need to stop with this whole race thing. Okay? Who cares what the race of the character is? Who cares? Alright? Just as long as the character is compelling. I recently went back and watched the first Matrix movie. I liked Morpheus, a black character. He was a great mentor to Neo, a white character. He had an important role. He had a much bigger role than a side character. Okay? No one cares what the race of the characters are, just as long as they are written well. That's the problem. I'm just gonna skip past certain parts. If you guys want to read the article, you can. I'm gonna put a link down below. Like for the third time I said it. But I'm just gonna read important parts here. As for now, Cowboy Bebop's worth to Netflix is clear. Netflix is still interested in anime. It's got a live adaptation of One Piece in development, which I really, really hope they don't do because that's a stupid idea. And it doesn't seem like anyone's career has ended overnight. That's up for debate. Certainly not John Cho's, as he was more work in varying stages of production. Folks can sweat a little less about that, but for all this tireless discourse from the futility of American anime adaptations to the rep sweats its cast presented, what was the point of all this if Netflix wasn't committed to it? Like I said before, money. They saw Cowboy Bebop as a popular franchise and thought they could squeeze the weebs. Problem is, though, they didn't respect the weebs enough to squeeze their money. They just expected them to be mindless zombies. It's the same reason why the comic book industry is failing and why certain parts of the video game industries are failing. These production companies, or these higher ups in these production companies, whether it be through movies or comic books or video games, think we're not even people. Fans like me, fans like my friends like you. They don't see us as people. They see us as mindless piggy banks, where we are more than willing to throw our money at stuff because it has the name of something that we like, not knowing that it has nothing to do with what we love. I just can't seem to wrap my head around why they think that. It's demeaning, okay? And when we try to call them out saying we're actual people, they insult us. They look down on us. They try to demean us. And then within the same breath, they expect us to pay them money to doing that. We don't. We're not going to. You have to be insane. The core issue on why Cowboy Bebop failed on Netflix is because Netflix doesn't give a shit about it enough to do its research. We've seen it happen before with Death Note, but I gave 4 great examples of live anime adaptation movies, and I told you how great they are because it's exclusively produced by Japan. Because they know their culture. They know their franchise. I guarantee you, if Netflix just got the original creator of Cowboy Bebop onto their cast, onto their crew, and he talked them through it, this might have had a chance for a season 2. But they didn't because they feel so arrogant in their production. I'm usually not happy when people's jobs are gone due to an executive decision, because I guarantee you there are probably a lot of other people like the crew members who have to handle the equipment, the makeup artists, the special effects people, the editing crew. Okay, not the actors, not the writers, but those other people. Okay. Despite the fact on how much of a piece of garbage this show was, those people worked very hard, and now they're probably out of a job because the people who are the very center of whether or not this is a win or a loss didn't even put much energy into this. So my guess is, I hope, when they start making productions for One Piece and Yu Yu Hakusho, I hope to God that, Netflix learned something. Because I'm getting tired of them taking beloved franchises that have existed for years and years and years and then crap on it and Americanize it because they think America's better. I guarantee you this is not going to deter people away from anime or manga. Because that kind of stuff, it's still being produced by Japan, who still have much respect for the source, for their own source material, and for the customers and for the fans. Okay, and if they didn't, why is manga basically outselling American comic books like Marvel and DC? Okay, as long as that continues happening, I'm pretty sure people are not going to be deterred from reading manga or watching anime. All right. But I certainly tell you that more people are probably going to um, cancel their Netflix accounts and go straight to Crunchyroll or other anime exclusive streaming sites. I know I will. It's it's just exhausting. And I know I've been rambling on for quite a while and I'm sorry about that, but I just wanted to make this available and talk about it. So guys, if you enjoy these sorts of events, please leave a like. You always comment. I love to be part of the conversation. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for more content. And I'll see y'all in the next rant. Bye bye.